me ask you something. When was the last time you cried? Did you cry openly or did you cry quietly? Maybe even in secret. Did you tell anyone about it or did you wipe your tears away and pretend nothing happened? The truth is, crying, breaking down, asking for help, these are deeply human experiences. And yet, society teaches us that how we express our pain or whether we are even allowed to express it depends heavily on gender. Hello and welcome back to the Personal Lens, where we explore the political through the personal. This is Jayanti, and today's episode is about how masculinity and femininity shape the ways we understand, express, and even stigmatize mental health. Why do men hide their struggles? Why are women more easily labeled emotional? Why do we so often cry in the dark? Gender, culture, and the silent rules of emotion. From the time we are children, we are handed scripts. Boys are told, be strong, don't cry, man up. Girls are told, don't be too loud, don't be too aggressive, stay polite. These are not just harmless social cues. They shape our inner worlds. They determine how we process sadness, anger, or even joy. Take masculinity. Western psychologist Ronald Levant describes something which is basically the difficulty many men face in identifying and expressing emotions because they've been trained to suppress them. On the other hand, femininity comes with over visibility in emotion. Women are stereotyped as too emotional, which means their distress may be dismissed as hysteria, drama, or mood swings. In fact, until 1980, the American Psychiatric Association still included hysteria as a diagnosis disproportionately used for women. For centuries, the connection between gender and mental health has been steeped in myth. If we take the case of hysteria, which we mentioned just now, one of the earliest so-called mental illnesses, and one that was quite literally gendered. In ancient Greece, physicians believed that a woman's uterus could wander around her body, pressing on organs and causing chaos from anxiety to fainting spells. They called it hysterical suffocation. The cure, placing pleasant scents near the vagina and foul ones near the mouth to lure the womb back into place. It sounds absurd now, but it reveals something important. For thousands of years, women's mental and emotional pain wasn't seen as real or social. It was seen as biological, even pathological, something to be controlled, not understood. So here's the paradox. Men are punished for showing emotions. Women are punished for having them. Stigma and silence. The World Health Organization reports that women are more likely to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety, while men are more likely to die by suicide. But does that mean women actually suffer more from depression? Not necessarily. It could mean that women are more willing to seek help while men hide their struggles until they reach a crisis point. Think about the phrase, boys don't cry. It sounds small, but it becomes deadly when you realize that men often do not access therapy, do not share openly, and sometimes channel their distress into aggression or substance use. Meanwhile, women's mental health issues often get medicalized too quickly. Instead of being asked what's troubling you, they may be prescribed medication without deeper inquiry into their social realities, such as unequal workloads, care responsibilities, or gender based violence. So, stigma works differently across genders, but it is always stigma that kills silence. Culture and media play a powerful role in reinforcing gender in mental health. Think of how Bollywood portrays masculinity, the brooding, silent who drinks to numb heartbreak. Think Devdas or countless films where the angry young man uses rage instead of tears. Crying is framed as weakness. Now think of female characters. They are allowed to cry, but their tears are often used to show how fragile they are or their dependence. Rarely do we see women's tears associated with strength or resistance. Even advertisements reinforce it. Men's products stay strong, stay tough. Women's products stay beautiful, stay balanced. The unspoken message is men must not break down, women must not break out. The personal is definitely political. Here's the truth. Mental health has never been just a private matter. It is profoundly political. It is political because it is shaped by gender roles, cultural expectations, and power structures. Because our minds don't exist in isolation, they are shaped by the air we breathe, the expectations we carry, and the roles we are forced to perform. Society doesn't just tell us how to behave, it tells us how to feel, when to speak, and what kind of pain is acceptable. When a man hides his depression because vulnerability threatens his masculinity, that's not an individual weakness. That's a political failure. It's the outcome of a system that equates strength with silence. When a woman's anxiety or exhaustion is dismissed as mood swings, that's not coincidence. That's the legacy of centuries of patriarchy that medicalized women's emotions instead of listening to them. When queer and non binary people are denied language, visibility, and safe spaces to express their mental health without fear or ridicule, that too is politics. It's the politics of erasure, the politics of normativity that tells them they must fit in to be understood. So, yes, we talk about mental health like it's an individual battle. Just meditate, just think positive, just toughen up. But healing isn't just a matter of self care, it's a matter of social care too, because no amount of deep breathing can fix a world that keeps suffocating us. The real question is, what cages have we built around emotions, and who profits from keeping us inside them? If we truly want mental health for all, we have to start dismantling the hierarchies that define who gets to hurt, who gets to heal, and who gets to be heard. If gender has taught us to build emotional walls, then liberation begins with unlearning those walls, brick by brick, breath by breath. For generations, we've mistaken emotional repression for strength. Boys were told that tears are shameful, girls were told that anger is unbecoming. But emotions don't disappear when we silence them. They go underground, showing up as anxiety, burnout, or quiet despair. Psychologists call this emotional suppression, and studies link it to higher risks of depression, heart disease, and even premature mortality. So, when we talk about emotional liberation, we are not speaking in metaphors. We are talking about public health. Imagine if schools taught children emotional vocabulary the way they teach grammar, not just happy and sad, but frustrated, rejected, afraid, proud, because naming emotion is the first step to mastering it. Imagine if workplaces valued empathy as much as efficiency, recognizing that psychological safety increases creativity and collaboration. Studies now show that emotional supportive environments lower stress and improve long term productivity. And imagine if therapy and wellness spaces were built with inclusion in mind, where men are not mocked for crying, where women are not diagnosed for dissent, and where queer and trans people can heal without being pathologized. Because right now, much of mental health care still assumes a one size fits all patient, usually cisgender, middle class, and male. But emotions like identities exist in plural. Cultural psychology reminds us that mental health is deeply contextual. What counts as resilience in one society might be repression in another. So perhaps the first act of liberation is to expand what we consider normal, to make space for anger, grief, vulnerability, and softness across all genders. True emotional freedom will not come from perfection but from permission, the permission to feel fully and live authentically. Maybe the goal isn't to fix our emotions, but to understand them, to listen to what sadness is trying to tell us, to see tears not as weakness but as data. Because healing isn't about becoming unbreakable, it's about realizing we were never meant to break alone. And maybe, just maybe, the world we are building isn't one where we stop crying in the dark, but one where no one has to hide their light behind their tears. So, as we reach the end of this conversation, let's pause and ask, what would a truly mentally healthy society look like? It would be one where men aren't told to man up, but to open up. Where women aren't told to calm down, but to speak up. Where queer and trans people aren't forced to fit in, but are celebrated for simply being. It would be a society that understands that emotional honesty is not rebellion, it's revolution. Because mental health is never just a matter of personal resilience, it's a mirror reflecting the health of our systems, our families, our schools, our workplaces, our politics. If those systems are built on inequality, silence, and shame, how can our minds ever be free? Every statistic about depression, anxiety, or suicide isn't just a number, it's a social message. It tells us who feels safe enough to ask for help and who doesn't. And that's why destigmatizing mental health isn't only about awareness days or campaigns. It's about rethinking masculinity, reimagining femininity, and making space for every spectrum of identity in between. As social psychologist Bryn Brown reminds us, vulnerability is not weakness, it's the birthplace of courage, creativity, and connection. When we allow ourselves and each other to feel, we do more than heal. We build community because every time one person speaks up, it gives silent permission to countless others who thought they had to hide. So let's start small. Let's normalize therapy the way we normalize gym memberships. Let's raise sons who are free to cry and daughters who roar. Let's build a world where emotions aren't divided by gender but united by humanity. We began this episode with a question, why do we cry in the dark? Maybe the answer is this, because we were never taught that light could exist within our tears. But if we keep talking, keep listening, keep challenging the silence, perhaps the next generation will learn to cry in the light together. This has been The Personal Lens, and this is Jayanti signing off for now. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation, for daring to see that the personal is and always will be political. Until next time, take care of your mind, your heart, and each other. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share The Personal Lens, and do let me know your thoughts at the email provided in the description. Most importantly, keep looking through the personal lens.